Hello and welcome to the Weekend Sauce. My name is Corey.
And I'm Dom.
Today, for this week, we'll be talking about Google's recently announced kind of gaming streaming service, Stadia. We've also got some thoughts on the, again, recently announced news that Obsidian's Outer Worlds will be exclusive, for at least for a time, on the Epic Games launcher. Also, if we can squeeze it in, we're going to be talking about Apex Legends Season 1 BattlePass. But to start off, we have this insanity. So, Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 just got announced last night. I was talking to you a bit about it last night, just before you kind of turned in for the night, and I decided to stay up to watch the whole Twitch stream and everything, and it was just not pure nonsense.
So how did it turn out?
Oh, so just for a bit of kind of backstory, right? So a few weeks ago, I think it was even a month ago now, this app got put out by Paradox Interactive called Tender, right? So clearly in imitation of Tinder, that lovely app. And so Tender basically
Do guys fare better on this one?
Yeah. Sorry?
I'm just joking. Do guys fare better on this one?
Well, here's the thing, right? It functioned the same way as Tinder, except it was all based on blood type and stuff in and relating to blood. It was very much kind of a emotional / blood-based connection, and people right off the bat knew that it was going to be something related to Vampire the Masquerade. And so the way it worked is there was kind of like this ARG type app where there was like kind of riddles and quests and stuff that the community and people were coming together to do up, which all culminated last night in this big party they had in Seattle, where they were live streaming this party, which clearly there was something a bit weird about the party. No alcohol being served, just oxygen, right? You had our host who was doing her best. She wasn't too awkward or anything, but she was doing her best to kind of, play up what was going on and everything. And there's this one scene, if you will, or this one part in the stream where she's like taking viewers on a tour of everything that's happening at the party, and she goes kind of to the back, right, like kind of outside, and there's this dude standing guard at this like trailer, and she enters the trailer when he's not looking. She just goes, "Oh my God!" Like it's like obviously something's going on, and clearly if you know about Vampire the Masquerade, something's about to go down. Sorry?
I said porn level acting.
It was good enough, right? Like I'll mention this now. It's really interesting because Vampire the Masquerade, so it's a tabletop game based in the World of Darkness universe, which is, has Vampire the Masquerade. There's I can't remember the names for the werewolf and the hunter version, but it's kind of this whole series of IPs that all kind of exist within the same universe, and they're all tabletop games. Also, there's a huge LARP community for them, right? So Vampire the Masquerade has a really big LARP community, fairly active. And so this whole kind of elaborate party that they did and planned fit extremely well, right? Because, that's what would be happening if you were actually LARPing, right? So basically it all kind of culminated at midnight where the supposed CEO of Tender got up and started doing his whole kind of pitch and speech on the app and how it's going to change everyone and everything like that. And then suddenly this random lady hops onto the stage and she's talking about how he's all involved in kind of conspiracy related stuff, and that, there's something going on behind the scenes, which he says, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. This is not kind of what it seems. And he reveals himself as that he's a vampire and that everyone's there to be turned en masse into vampires, right? And this kind of mass turning, if you will. And so what ends up happening on the stream is these weird kind of people come out from behind the stage that they've kind of set up, and they start like not beefing him, but they start like going after him, right? And so the stream cuts out every few seconds between him like getting thrown off the stage by these people and everything, and that's how they end it. That's how they end the kind of screenplay that they do, and then they do the trailer for Vampire the Masquerade Bloodline 2, right? So the reason why they did all this whole thing is to obviously generate hype, and so the way it works in the universe is that vampires do exist, where vampires, werewolves, all those ghouls and ghosts, they all exist, right? And so for vampires, they have this concept called the masquerade, which is that they can't. If you reveal yourself to humans in some fashion, you're violating the masquerade, and so certain steps have to be taken. So for this, with the guy telling all these normal humans that they're about to be turned into vampires and that he's a vampire.
Yeah, then so it makes sense all the strange people coming on and
Yeah,
taking them off.
yeah, exactly, right. Which I've played Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines. I love that game. It's fantastic. And so I knew what was going on kind of the whole time. But and again, it was kind of cringy a little bit. Like I'm not gonna lie,
But it was a good cringe.
Oh, it was hilarious, man. Again, it made so much sense with the whole kind of LARP community that they have, and so it got announced for a Q1 2020. So we're not even gonna see a lot of it until kind of then, which it is what it is. They've seemingly kind of set their aspirations pretty high, but I'm really excited. I don't think you know a whole lot about the
Oh
series
no,
in
I'm
general,
not.
right?
I don't know much about the series. I do know that it's like story driven, story based, right? So here's my question to you: do you think that they can do a good job with the sequel? Do you think it could ever live up to the hype of what people want, or do you think it's gonna fall short for sure?
It's a bit weird, right? Because so the first game, or at least the first game in Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines, the original, if you will, that game, the gameplay kind of sucks. It's not that great. The combat is very janky and everything. The graphics are obviously extremely dated, but the main draw for that game is the aesthetic, right? It's just so perfectly kind of grim and creepy, and you're playing as a vampire, and it feels appropriate, right? Everything that kind of happens and everything that you see and experience, and so I feel like that's going to be their main kind of challenge to kind of recapture that aesthetic feeling in 2019. I mean, that being said, they were talking a little bit about how the gameplay has become a lot more enjoyable, which is always a good thing, right? I mean, hey, good gameplay makes for good games, right? So I feel as if they're going to, if they do a good enough job with the aesthetic, then everything should be okay. It is interesting that it's a sequel to the original Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines because the setting in that game is in a time that's called Gehenna, and Gehenna is the term that they use for the end of the world for vampires and such, right? So, I mean, it's, I think, 15 years later in the sequel, and apparently vampires are still around, and kind of Gehenna either hasn't happened or is still happening, right? So it'll be really interesting to see kind of how the politics of the vampire world have kind of grown since then. This one takes place in Seattle instead of Los Angeles, which is where the first one took place.
So if you could like encapsulate very shortly, what is the game like? Is it like a day in the life of a vampire, right? Like I know you said that you're playing as a vampire, right? But like, do you get choices, right? Like, well, what makes this game so special?
So for the first game or for what's
For the first game.
So for the first game, it's kind of like it's this very expansive introduction into the world of vampires within this setting, right? So the backdrop is that you get turned into a vampire. They call it embrace. So you get embraced into a vampire. Kind of unlawfully, because in vampire society you can't just turn anyone you want into a vampire. You have to prove it with the proper channels. It's called a prince, although not everybody does that. Again, there's kind of all these different factions and stuff that exist, and so navigating through the game involves you kind of navigating through the politics, right? You have all these different factions trying to use you. Do you want to attach yourself to a certain faction or go alone or whatever have you, right? So it's almost similar to Fallout New Vegas, right? Where in Fallout New Vegas, you have the NCR, the Legion, House, Benny to a certain extent. They're all trying to kind of use your status as the courier, to their own advantages and benefits. But you can go alone if you want. So in Vampire the Masquerade, it's very similar, where you have all these different factions who are trying to use you for their own gain, but then it's up to you to kind of make the choice and put in the effort to do kind of what you want to do, right?
Wow. Okay. So you would say it's like a Vampire New Vegas? Is that kind of how you would put it?
Yeah, to a certain extent.
I mean,
that is a very
it's not focused on gameplay, right?
that is
but
a very
the story is more refined.
Yeah, I don't want to like attach myself to that statement because it is fairly reductionist in terms of Vampire the Masquerade, but that's a fair way to put it. It's kind of like
It's an RPG.
Yeah, it's very RPG focused. This one, it's very similar. I'm gonna read you the kind of story blurb that they have right now. It's enter the night as one of several humans inexplicably attacked in a mass embrace, a mass turning. Suddenly thrown into the dangerous and ruthless vampire politics of Seattle. Tensions between the factions in Seattle are at an all-time high, and this unsanctioned attack throws the status quo into chaos. An inquest is called in order to get to the bottom of the mystery, and you're the star witness, whether you like it or not. Right? So you're thrown into this political environment involuntarily, and so it's up to you to kind of navigate it as best as you can, right? So I'm very interested. Again, it's coming out. It's supposed to come out in 2020. So I mean, we're not going to be talking about it for quite some time after this, but I'd like to see where it goes. I'm very, very interested to say to say the least, because the first game was a very unique experience that I haven't really been able to kind of get since then. So I'm excited.
Well, that sounds kind of promising.
I'll keep you posted if they have like maybe they'll throw in some multiplayer functionality. Who knows?
I don't honestly. I've never played the game, right?
Mm-hmm.
But just based on what you're telling me, I hope that they don't focus on any multiplayer. I want them to make the story the first and foremost, right? I know, like, in a lot of today's games, there's always a need to bring in multiplayer, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like for this game, right, the one thing I want, right, whenever a continuation happens of a series, is try and stay as true as you can to it, right? I know when did the first game come out? What year was that?
Jeez, it was like early 2000s. Like, it's been a while.
Right?
Yeah.
So, like, especially with the upgrade in graphics, I feel like they should definitely still try and focus and make story the number one thing,
Mhm.
right? Don't lose your way with multiplayer. If multiplayer is going to hurt you, don't do it. Maybe add it
that's
later
true.
at a certain
That's very
time.
true. Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, if they can incorporate it in a way that works out, then sure. But absolutely, like you
Right,
said,
like-
if it hurts, then don't bother.
Like I'm down to go buy a vampire RPG. Like that's what it's basically. That's what you're basically telling me. Vampire RPG.
Very story-based vampire RPG. There's a whole lot more that we could talk about for like the different clans and stuff and all that other thing, but that would take too long, right? Well, when they start coming out with more information and things like that, we can maybe take note of it. But I'm not going to bore you with all these kind of lore specifics, right? So I'm very excited. Nosferatu Gang, that's my clan. Shout out,
Gang.
yeah. They're
Gang.
Well, I'll explain them very briefly. Their whole thing is that they're extraordinarily ugly, so they can't actually increase their seduction stat above 0. It's at 0, but they're really good at like sneaking around, messing with computers. So love me. That's my clan, man. That's me. So
Those are my boys.
yeah, I'm waiting to see how they work out in Seattle here. So I'm excited to say the least. In any case, so we had
Google Stadia.
Google, I believe, yes, Stadia. So it was at the GDC conference earlier this week. So I had watched their kind of whole kind of
Presentation.
yeah. And I'm not gonna go into the presentation because it was just 90% corporate jargon and buzzwords and all this other nonsense, right? It was very similar to what you were saying last week, where they said all these things, but they didn't say a whole lot, right? Because nobody knows anything about Stadia's pricing, about a lot of the kind
Well,
of
okay. Well, before we talk about that, like let's just talk about what is Google Stadia, because
what
that's
they've posited it as.
what
yeah.
they have right so far.
Yeah, go
because
for it.
They didn't say anything else.
Not really,
But what they
no.
have so far is basically, from the gist of it, right? If you're ever on a YouTube video, correct me if I'm wrong, and you're watching some gameplay or you're looking at a trailer, what they use is Assassin's Creed, right?
Yeah,
As their
yeah.
example. At the end of your video, you're gonna have the option, right? If you're subscribed, I believe, to Google Stadia. We don't know actually what the pricing is. We don't know what it
Yeah,
is.
yeah.
So I don't know if it's a subscription. I don't know if it's a one-time buy. Let's be real. It's probably a subscription.
Probably.
But you click it and you can play instantaneously. You don't have to wait for a download. You don't have to do any of that, right? And the game just comes on.
Yep.
Everything is streamed to your computer. All the textures, all of your inputs, right, and vice versa.
Yep.
And it does say in the little fine print that it could take up to 20 gigs per hour.
20 gigs per
right?
hour. Yeah.
So I don't know if you have the plan for it. That seems pretty good, right? Another, not necessarily problem, but another thing that was brought up was latency, right?
Yeah, it's a bit weird because all these things that you just mentioned sound okay. I mean, I'm not super interested myself, but they're all reliant on Google, right? So everything comes from Google's data servers and everything like that. So if they do happen to mess up, then everyone gets affected.
Yeah. Also, like, what happens with game ownership? Do I even own this game?
Do you own the
Do
game,
they
or are you
just
like
take it away?
Are you like renting
right?
it or something?
Like, what's going on with that?
Yeah, I don't
right?
know. It's
Who owns the game?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the discussion that I've been seeing has kind of put forward that it's similar to like a Netflix type thing, which I don't know. I mean, I guess is fair enough.
That's kind of cool, I guess.
If I'm remembering correctly, there is something similar that already exists, which I'm trying to look up right now. I believe it was called OnLive. Let me double check that. if I'm remembering correctly, at least there's like, yeah, yeah, um, On Live kind of has the same sort of technology where it's like the whole streaming thing. Yeah, so apparently they are not the first ones to do this type of thing. Um,
They're
which
the first ones to go with Google.
to go
Sorry,
with to
go with YouTube,
yeah,
which
the
is
first
Google.
prominent kind of company to do it. And good that you mentioned YouTube because a whole other thing that I've been seeing is that this is not the future of gaming, which is part of what they were putting forward, but instead that it's the future of YouTube, or it's very beneficial to YouTube rather than video games, which I don't disagree with at all.
I would still say it's a potential future of gaming, right?
Yeah, I mean,
I could definitely see a future where there's no need to be downloading things, right? Like, I mean, to me, I don't see myself going this route, right?
no,
I
I don't,
hate
yeah,
subscriptions
I don't
with a
like it
burning
either. No.
passion. But that's just me, right? Maybe someone in a younger generation, right? That's not an old hud like us that,
Yeah, I mean,
will be more
um,
interested in it.
the kind of benefits that they put forward is that you don't need a good computer to play games anymore. It's just you
Just need
use
good internet.
yeah, you just need good internet. You use Google's data servers to do to play your whole game there.
Which is a benefit in like a slight. It's like you're kind of trading, right? You
Yeah,
know what I mean?
yeah, it's a trade-off, right? Instead of spending a bunch of money on a computer, you spend
A bunch of
or at
money
least
on
presumably you spend a bunch of money on Stadia.
and internet.
Yeah, and internet. Yeah. Um, I mean, my main question is like, was this needed? Was this asked for? You know what I mean? Um, because I'm just thinking for me, I'll use my own example, which again, this is all personal, so don't take it kind of as factual or objective. But I have my computer, which I built and which is works well for gaming and everything. And I have Steam, right? So I buy my games usually off Steam unless I really have to use Origin or something. Um, there really isn't any reason for me to get Stadia.
No, not
Um,
for you.
and I imagine most PC gamers are kind of in the same boat where they use Steam or something and they have a good computer and they don't need to kind of worry about these things. So I guess I'm just curious as to like, why was it that they decided to go forward with this as opposed to something else,
I
right?
mean, here's the thing, right? I think when it came to Stadia, I think it is a good idea. The reason why I do think so is because it's not only applicable to your desktop, right? It's applicable to your laptop, your phone, or whatever, right? Like you could use Stadia on a whole bunch of platforms, right?
Yeah, yeah,
And
they did
they
demonstrate
all
that.
have the same capabilities, right?
Mm-hmm.
Everybody has a phone, right? I'm not gonna say everybody has a computer, right? But
Oh,
the
you
the
guys don't have
principle.
phones? Sorry,
Oh,
go ahead.
oh my God, no, no. But the principle is that they want to target. It's kind of like mobile gaming. They want to target as many people as they can, right, and get them into gaming,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I guess I can see what you're saying that like this could be the future of YouTube, but I also think of it as like this is the future of gaming, right? Gaming is becoming more acceptable as we go on, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
if if everybody is able to have a computer that's able to play all the games, then you eliminate the one up that I had
Yeah,
on you, right?
the
When I was
barriers.
having my 140 FPS, right?
Yeah.
Now I don't think Stadia is anywhere near ready for any multiplayer game, right? Lag is already a huge thing whenever it comes to any
Well,
multiplayer
actually,
game.
it's
Not
fun.
necessarily for me, but
Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that because one of the things they were talking about a lot is that like, I think it was when they brought freaking MatPat of game theory on of all people, right? Um, I think his portion of the presentation was talking about how, you'd be playing a battle royale with 100 people, but with Stadia, with all these restrictions of internet usage kind of removed since it's off Google, you could have like 1,000 people, right? Because there would be no lag. There would be no singular lag, right? Just as long as you're connected to Google and everyone's connected to the Google data servers with Stadia, there is no lag, right? I mean, again, it's hard to say if that's going to
how
be.
does that make any sense? What if I had shitty internet, right? Excuse me, pardon my language. What if I had poor internet?
Well, I think the idea is that you're connected to Google.
No, I get that, right? Well, what do you mean you're connected to Google? Like your internet provider is Google?
Well, it's all coming from Google, everything, right? So it's like you hook up your Stadia to your whatever.
So with Stadia, do I get internet? That's what I'm asking, right? Like it doesn't make
No,
sense
yeah, I
to
think
me
you're right. I think you're right.
unless they
Yeah.
have like a special internet like package that they're selling, and then they're guaranteeing that you're gonna get such and such.
Yeah, I think you're right.
speeds
No, I think you're
and-
right. Yeah. I don't know. I guess we'll see. I mean, just on the YouTube kind of functionality with it, right? Like a lot of it kind of relates to a lot of this more social aspects, or at least potential social aspects of YouTube. So like there was the one where you would be able to play with kind of your subscribers or viewers or anything, right? There'd be the kind of the line to play with whoever they used.
Yeah, yeah.
They were using 2K as the example. Um, which I mean, here's the thing. I know that YouTube gaming is a thing and kind of exists on its own, perhaps not super in relation to
Like YouTube streaming?
no YouTube gaming, like
Okay.
that whole thing there, right? Like that whole portion of YouTube where like, you know, you and I post on YouTube in relation to games and other media, but we're not part of YouTube gaming. It's its own thing. Like I think they contact. It's like being a Discord affiliate or something, right? Like you're part of YouTube gaming. So yeah, that's its own thing, and I think the stuff they're putting forward for Stadia benefits them. I don't know if it benefits the larger gaming community that's existed on YouTube. I'm not sure if that's the case. Just because, I mean, when you think a lot of the kind of gaming related stuff on YouTube, again, apart from YouTube gaming specifically, right? You have, kind of humorous videos or playthroughs, or there's a lot of kind of pseudo intellectual gaming videos, guys like Matthew Matosis and Joseph Anderson, where they're these sort of video essays where they kind of pontificate about different aspects of video games, which is fine. I mean, it is what it is. For them, I don't think I'll use them as the example. I don't think these things really benefit them at all, right? I mean, these guys analyze games in a more kind of academic or professional way. I mean, depending on who you're talking about. And being able to play with your subscribers is neat, but it's not really super in relation to what they do. Like, sure, it involves video games, but beyond that, again, they don't put out gameplay videos or anything like that. It's all video essays and stuff, right? So I gotta wonder how popular those things are going to be, just because, again, I'm not really sure how far or how broad the benefits will be for people on YouTube. So I don't know. I mean, hey, I don't think you and I are gonna be using it at all, right?
I don't see myself using Stadia, but to go back and touch what you're saying, if Google has claims they have such great servers, with their Google Stadia, they should implement this and sell it to other game companies. Please, we could use these.
Yeah, I mean, I know they were in contact with a lot of different people. Like one of the main things that they were going on about was Doom Eternal. They had some guy from id Software come up. I can't remember his name. But yeah, they're apparently in cahoots with id Software, which is part of Bethesda, of course, right? So hey, that's already one big game developer, publisher, whatever have you. So yeah, who's to say they couldn't expand to Sony, Activision?
I could already feel it on Elder Scrolls Blades.
I shudder to say it, but EA as well, right? Who knows? They could all kind of all these big corporations could start dipping their hands into Stadia. So I mean, I guess we'll see. It's a bit weird. I know there was a lot of hubbub and rumors for what Google was going to do at the GDC, and this is what they've moved forward with. So I guess it's better than just them doing another console, right? We don't need another console in the market, that's for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't know. I mean, it's a weird thing, right? I mean, they only just did it earlier this week, and again, like we were saying, they didn't really explain a whole lot about pricing and all this other stuff, right? So we'll have to follow it as a developing story, right? Maybe it'll be at E3. Who knows?
True.
They said they'd have more information in the summer, and E3's in the summer, of course, right? So I guess we'll see.
Soon. Oh my god.
It is, yeah. E3's coming up, man. It's like I was saying last week. It's fast. It comes fast, man. It comes at you quick. So we'll see. I mean, I feel like we say that all the time, but with a lot of these things and stories that we talk about, it's all, very, very much in relation to developing stories, right? So we'll have to keep an eye on it. One story, if you will, that has been continuously developing, especially in recent times, is the constant kind of issues with the Epic Game Store. So it was Obsidian this week who announced that, or at least one of the big one was Obsidian's announcement of Outer Worlds being on the Epic Game Store for at least, I think it was a limited time exclusive.
1 year.
1 year.
12 months.
12 months. Yeah, that's right.
But before we get into this, there is a saving grace that it's at least onto the Windows Store as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's not only
That's
on
right.
Epic Games, but they're still selling it as an exclusive. So let them twist the words as they may. Exclusive means you only have it, but
Hmm.
but anyway, I'm sure a lot of people are gonna pick it up on the Epic Game Store, but I think that just the sheer fact that it is on the Epic Game Store, right, will shy a lot of people away from the game. I know you were even telling me that you might not even pick up the game just because of it.
Well, I mean, here's like when they announced it, I already wasn't super into it just because I mean, it was it's kind of like a Fallout-esque sort of
Oh
game,
well, that's what
right? Just
I
just
agree with you.
just based on the game itself, I wasn't super interested into it. It was like a in between Borderlands and Fallout in terms of tone and style. Um, and I wasn't super into it. Now I have no interest in it at all because I have no plans on getting the Epic Games Store, right? I mentioned it earlier. I have Steam. Steam has worked well for me. I have no reason to get the Epic Games Store. I'm not a fan of Fortnite. I'm not a fan
Why
of
not, man? Come on, we gotta get the Epic Victory Royale.
No, I'm not into it, right? And I just feel as if the whole thing with the Epic Games Store is very kind of scumbag-esque, right? Because I was explaining it a little bit earlier, but the way it works for the Epic Game Stores and all these exclusives is that they pay the developers enough that they're in the green, regardless of sales. And so it's really just, I mean, it's just kind of scumbag. It's just driving gamers it's forcing them to kind of get the Epic Games store and the launcher and everything, and to buy it there, which I'm not a huge fan of because, the way it works on Steam is very basic. Again, but they have their own issues. Steam, of course, does. But for them, it's, you pay a certain amount of money to get on Steam, and then hopefully you make your money back. And while that's not the case for a lot of games, I mean, it's just kind of how it works out, right? I mean, sometimes your game sells, sometimes it doesn't. With Epic Games, it's just, they pay you that much money, and then you're fine. It's whatever. And so us, as the consumers, as gamers, are forced to get the Epic Games store if we want to get these games, which I'm not
I
a fan of.
think another thing, right, when it came to the startup, right? When it came to, they were asking for money, right?
Yep.
On the startup, they were saying, "Oh, it's going to be on Steam. It's going to be on every single platform, right?
Yep.
It's going to be, sorry, I say every single. It's going to be accessible,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Basically, and it sucks to know that if you were someone who was part of the startup, right, and you gave your money earlier, and then they're coming today like, all right, after they got their check, right, and they're like, okay, so it's going to be with the Epic Game Store, and it's an exclusive. It's kind of disingenuous, I feel,
It
to
is,
just
yeah. It
take
is very
people's money,
disingenuous.
promise that you're going to, go everywhere. Maybe I'm a Steam loyalist, right? I'm not fond of Epic Games for their past reasons, right? For instance,
Yep.
like how they had spyware on your computer.
It's not
right?
just their launcher. They have done other things, yeah. To say the least.
There's not even a search bar on their launcher. It's not
No.
to say like it's even inclusive, right? The game chooses you. Actually, you know what? I take that back. You don't choose the game. The game chooses you.
Yeah, it's well, it's funny because you mentioned like all this, having kind of accessibility in terms of where you sell. So, Phoenix Point and Metro Exodus is the latest one.
That's
I think.
right.
Exodus. They were both going to be on Steam, and we're taking pre-orders for Steam. Especially, I mean, Phoenix Point was a Kickstarted game, if I'm remembering correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And then they just come out and they say like, oh well, I mean, Epic Games bought us out, so now we're not going on Steam. Sucks to suck.
But I do think the people that bought it on Steam got it on Steam.
For Metro Exodus, they did, not for Phoenix Point.
Oh wow, really?
At Phoenix Point, they're basically saying like, well, I mean, we understand that people are buying it on Steam, but now it's going to be on the Epic Games Store, so we have to figure that out. And it's like kind of, sorry, but it's not going to be on Steam at all, right? So at least for Metro Exodus, you could get it on Steam. You had your code, whatever.
Okay.
Now it's Phoenix Point is nope, just the Epic Games Store.
They I'm not familiar, but did they already like started accepting money, like pre-orders?
Oh
for
yeah,
Phoenix Point
yeah,
on Steam?
absolutely, yeah. Like I said, I'm pretty sure it was Kickstarted. It was a
Okay.
Kickstarter game. And yeah, they accepted pre-orders. Absolutely. With a fairly core fan base. It's made by the same guys who did the first XCOM game. And so they have a fairly kind of loyal following, which of course was very upset at this fact because it is a scummy practice, right? It's money is money. Obviously, businesses need to make money, but I'm not pleased with how these things have been happening, right? I don't see any reason to keep downloading all these different launchers, right? Like I mentioned earlier, I don't like using Origin for certain games because it's annoying, right? Origin is basically worse Steam. Steam, again, has its own issues, especially if you're a developer trying to make money, trying to earn a living, right? But at least Steam is very accessible, right? You can find tons and tons of games on Steam, and it's kind of the primo PC game thing that you need to have, right?
True, but like everyone wants to have their own launcher. Look, even at like Battle.net, right?
Yeah.
Everyone wants to have their own launcher. So when you look at the one game that they have, right? WoW, I don't know, Fortnite, right? Steam has it's the primo, right?
Hmm.
But when you at least have one game, you're thinking, okay, now that I did this, I can get another one, right? I'm sure, right? Eventually, if Riot Games has a single brain cell, they say they have another game in the pipe. God knows if that's true or not, but I'm sure they'll probably actually not. They probably won't. They can barely make a client anyway, but I'm sure that it would be smart for them to make a launcher so you
Yeah.
can check out their other products. I
Yeah.
understand why it happens. It's very inconvenient to us, the consumer, to always have to have another one. You're probably starting up your computer. You have 3 or 4 different Steam-like things.
Seriously,
You got
yeah.
Shift F1, Shift F2, Shift Tab.
Seriously,
you
yeah.
know?
Like Uplay, like I mean, Uplay is it's a launcher.
Yeah, it's a launcher.
It's not.
Uplay exists too.
Yeah, but at least with Uplay you can get around it by having your games on Steam, right?
No, but it sucks because you basically have Steam and then you go into Uplay.
Yeah,
That's how it works.
that is true
It's like
as well.
2 launchers.
Yeah, 2 launchers in one. I don't know. It's just, I mean, I'm not a Fortnite guy by any means, and again, I'm not a huge fan of Epic Games just in general. So like, I'm not gonna call myself a Steam loyalist, but I'm definitely at least somewhat of an anti-Epic Games guy. Which I mean, I will admit that I will stand by that decision right now. I'm just not a huge fan of them or anything. I don't think Fortnite has much going on. I mean, it's just another
Well,
kind
you better
of
watch your mouth there.
yeah, I'm just saying, I mean, even Apex Legends, which when it came out, you and I were talking about and praising fairly well, now I'm kind of bored with it, right? And they've been having their own issues, which we'll get into with their battle pass and everything. But hey, I mean, listen, I don't really see any reason for them to be trying to force themselves into Steam's market, right? Like, I think they're even, I think Tim Sweeney, who's the head guy there, I think he was even going after Steam and Valve and like beefing them and saying poor things about them, right? Like slinging mud. It's like, why? What's the point of that? I mean, like,
You got to stir the drama. You
yeah,
gotta
it's
bring
like
people
they're
to
like
your,
stirring
to
the
your
pot
launcher.
to try and I mean, I get there's no bad press, but I mean, come on, I'm already tons of people, myself included, are already not impressed by what they're doing. I don't really see any reason to
Well,
add
Corey, I
on
think
to
we
it.
got to learn something from here, right? How do we get Weekend Sauce more popular? We start slinging
We start
insults.
we start actually being we start actually yeah. I mean, I feel like we're pretty reasonable, but I guess we just got to start going
We
off,
just got to
right?
start throwing our own
Start
shit,
going
you
off.
know?
We'll as soon as we get big enough, we can start going after fellow YouTubers, right? And
That's
just-
right. We're just
yeah.
going to go for drama.
That-
Whoever can find this episode, you did it.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. I know we're joking around, but you're right. I mean, especially in the digital media market, right? A big part of it is kind of existing alongside your competitors and kind of going, what makes me better than my competitors, and if you can do that in such a way with your marketing and social media and interviews that you do, that puts your competitors down. I mean, it probably benefits you to do so. I don't know. It's weird. I also have to wonder, like, because of course Epic Games is their big thing is Fortnite. I mean, do people who play Fortnite, are they really interested in stuff like Phoenix Point and Outer Worlds?
I don't think so, right? But it doesn't
Probably
hurt
majority
to,
of them aren't, right? I
to
guess.
bring it towards them. Hey, I open up my Epic Game Store, maybe I'm waiting for a patch or whatever, and I can't wait to play. I don't play Fortnite. But
Yeah.
I can't wait to play.
Hypothetically, yeah.
And I'm just clicking around the store, while it's downloading, and I'm going to be like, hey, what's this? What's this game, right? Like, when I tried to play Fortnite, I've played probably like 30 games. When I tried to play, I was clicking around the store. I was like, wow, they have a couple of games here, right?
Mhm.
They had Hades. I was kind of interested in that, but I was like, if I really want to pick it up, I'll probably pick it up on like a different platform or
Yeah.
whatever. Like,
Yeah.
I don't think it's an exclusive, and I was just, I don't want to fragment like where my games are, right? But if I'm a Fortnite guy, right? Maybe I don't know what Steam is, or maybe I'm just not
Maybe
big
not.
into
Yeah, I
Steam.
guess that is true.
Because
Yeah.
I know a whole bunch of my friends. I have a whole bunch of friends that are big into Fortnite, but no other game, right? So
I guess
Who
that's
knows?
true. Yeah, I mean, maybe it bodes well for them to, go on. I mean, just the sheer quantity of people who play Fortnite, I guess, can be attractive to developers, right? To go on the store and have all, like, what, billions is it, I think, now? Or millions or billions? Or how many people who, concurrent players of Fortnite who go through the Epic Game Store, right? maybe they, again, like you said, maybe they see Outer Worlds on the launch and they buy it, or they see it on sale and they're like, I'll pick it up, give it a shot, right?
Who actually makes Fortnite? It's only Epic Games that's Chinese, right?
I believe so, yes.
But Fortnite's from America?
Yeah.
Developers? American
Yeah, if
developers?
I'm remembering correctly. Well, I mean, Fortnite obviously started
It
out
used
as
to be as a...
the tower defense type game, right? And now
I
it's
played it before it was cool.
it's so funny because I remember seeing Fortnite. I was like, oh, that might look kind of neat, a multiplayer game and we could all play. And then I lost interest. And then,
It's still a good... Well, okay, I liked it.
Yeah.
Right? It was just a bit grindy, but it was going places. It was still... I don't even know if it's done. It was in beta, right?
They're never gonna.
I don't
They have
think
no
they're
reason
ever
to
gonna
finish it.
They have no reason to finish it. But it was a solid game. I liked what was happening. I liked where it was going. I guess we're never gonna really see where it's gonna go.
Yeah, no, that was the thing, right? Because like I remember people were always talking about Fortnite. I was like, wait, that tower defense game, like that's popular? And then I looked into it and saw it was Fortnite Battle Royale. I was like, oh, I didn't even know this is a thing. This is
thing that started the plague.
This was way back, of course, right? Way back. But yeah,
I can't believe I was like, when I saw it, I was like, you know what? I kind of want to play it.
Fortnite, like Battle Royale.
Yeah, because I was playing the original Fortnite, right? Like
yeah.
Defend the Storm, whatever.
That's fair. I mean,
and then after I was like, oh, you know what? This actually might be like pretty OD. Pretty cool.
I joined it late, right? I hopped on PUBG. It wasn't even Fortnite. It was PUBG, and I don't know. It was okay for a time. It's kind of the same as Apex. I was really impressed at the start, and then I got kind of bored of it. And now I don't have too much interest in it. Although, for Apex specifically, I'm still keeping my eye on it to see where they go with it because, like we said those weeks ago, just dropping it without any marketing was a crazy play and it got super popular, and here they are now, right? So, I don't know. Just to end off here with the Apex, or rather, sorry, the Outer Worlds and Epic Games launcher. I don't think it's long-term benefit. It's not a long-term benefit for consumers to have Epic Games continuously buying out these games to be on their platform. Again, for a limited time exclusive type deal. I don't think it's nice. I don't think it's a good business move. Or rather, maybe it is a good business move
It's
for
a good
profit.
business move. It's just a slap to
It's kind
the
of
face to us.
Yeah, it's kind of
right?
scummy, right? It's not.
And it's kind of sad that there's a whole bunch of people that don't know the Epic's past, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
sorry, not even past, and what they're currently doing.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I mean, there's
in the present.
the whole debacle with them. Like what I've read and what I think is true. Again, I'm not gonna state this as a thing of fact, but what I've been able to kind of glean from reading stuff online is that the Epic Games Store reads kind of what you have on Steam, and then so that kind of influences Epic Games into what they want to buy, right? And again, just spying on your data is pretty suspect in general, because of course they probably are selling that data. That's how a lot of companies make their money.
That's what everybody's doing until you get caught.
Yeah. Well, even when they do get caught, I mean, you just go in the terms of service and they say, "Hey, you let us do this." Like that's Facebook, right? Well, Facebook to a certain extent, which is a whole other conversation.
Sucked.
But yeah, it's just not a good situation. I'm not super angry about it like a lot of other people, but at least I'm not a fan of it.
I feel kind of bad because I brought this up, I think, one week when it came to talking about Evo. Was that last week?
About what, sorry?
When it came to talking about Evo. Was that last week that we talked about Evo?
I
Or was that
believe
the
so,
week before?
yes.
Anyway, when there was this statement with Armada when he talked about people just being sheep, right? I'm going to use the same thing in this term, right? And I feel like there's a lot of people that are still just going to be sheep and still just buy it. The Outer Worlds just like, oh, different platform? Ooh, let's go.
Yeah, yeah,
like,
it's just...
So, like, they're like, ooh, a piece of hay, let me go eat that, right? But there's nothing we can do about it. It's, we can hate them, but I guess it's a slimy tactic that's going to work at the end of the day. Let's be real.
Yeah, I guess
We'll see how it happens. We'll see how it transitions, though. Maybe it will have an impact on its sales, right? What happened to Battlefront 2? That'd be insane.
Oh, you mean for Battlefront 2, like how they were
How it's pretty much boycotted, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Bought it.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I hope they don't. I hope they don't keep pushing it in terms of scumminess. I hope they reel back if possible. But hey, man,
Nah, man,
I'm
joined
not
the dark side.
Hey, you know me. I'm not a huge fan of these big companies, right? And I always expect them to do things wrong. So we'll see. Speaking of companies not doing things super right, we have Respawn in Apex. Great transition. Their Battle Pass for Season 1.
So wait, how do you feel about battle passes in general?
I'm not a fan. I don't like
I
them.
mean,
No.
I don't like them. Who started this? Was it Fortnite that started battle passes?
Well, I mean, I'm sure they popularized
They
it.
popularized
We
it.
can
We don't know
attribute
who
it to
started
Fortnite in a reasonable manner,
But
right?
I agree with you. I am no fan of battle passes, but to be fair, well, even speaking of battle passes, there was a battle pass that happened in Battle Right. I'm not a fan of it. It's not the type of game, but I feel like when it comes to battle royales, battle passes, they're like brothers. They go hand in hand.
Yeah.
You know, they go everywhere together, right? So I was a little bit disappointed when I heard that there was a battle pass for Apex Legends, right? Because I don't want to do this. I really don't.
It's very reminiscent of like the whole kind of daily idea with
Why do I have
MMOs
to
and stuff.
pay for like my dailies?
You know, it's
man?
just like log in, do your dailies, whatever, right? It's like I'm not a huge fan of it for gaming in general. I mean, with MMOs, it's a bit different. Just kind of the way that whole model works.
Nah, man. When you're playing Final Fantasy 14, don't you just want to pay another $9.99 for our battle pass so you can unlock more quests? So then after if you
No,
play
I
more, you
do
get the skin,
not.
and then you get.
Well, it's really funny actually because Naoki Yoshida, the main guy for Final Fantasy 14, has always said, I don't want you to play Final Fantasy 14 for super long, right? Like just log in, do what you need to do, and then go ahead and play other games. It's no big deal, right? So he's always kind of approached it in the sense that the game should be as accessible as possible, which isn't a horrible thing. With an MMO, it is kind of weird to say that because you have guys who put in like 22 hours a week. And in MMOs, I'm not kind of like myself, not right now, but when at the height of FF14, right?
You know, it's a slimy MMO that I can actually see it. Okay, I say slimy. For those of you that like BDO, that's okay. But, oh my God, that game, it like encapsulates anything that's a problem for like mobile gaming, right? With a severe lack of content and end gaming. It's a sandbox MMO, right? So it is vast, right? There's tons of things to do, right? When it comes to not combat, right, or PvP.
Yeah.
But there's no like true like dungeon or raid end game, which I find is a problem, right? But to other people, it could be perfectly fine, and I understand that, and that's a-okay with you.
Mm-hmm.
It's not okay with me because I feel like that game could be so much more. But that's besides the point. Back to battle passes, back to Apex Legends. But there's a new character. We can talk about that.
Octane, who was kind of leaked a bit early. I mean, these things happen, of course. It is what it is. I think his kit is, interesting enough, right?
It's pretty cool. Works together.
I remember when we were talking about Apex kind of back when it came out, one of the things we were mentioning is, adding other stuff from Titanfall, right? So he's kind of the stim.
He even calls back, like lore-wise, to Titanfall, right?
How so?
Do you remember when you're installing Titanfall, right?
Yeah.
There was a trial run that you have to do. I completely forgot what they were called. So you basically had a time. You had to like run like a circuit.
Yeah,
right?
with a hologram, right?
Right. Yeah, with a hologram.
Yeah.
I forgot what it's called, right? But his lore ties into that. Whatever it was called, he used a grenade, right, to go as fast as he could through the track.
Oh,
which
yeah, and
is
he blew up
true
his
to
legs,
the lore.
right?
So he blew up his legs.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So it's true that if you ever look up videos on whatever the track is called, I'm so sorry, whatever the mode's called for that. You need to use a grenade to get one of the fastest times possible, right? So
I remember that actually.
It all just ties in.
Yeah. Yeah. That's actually really neat. I like how they're doing stuff like that. But yeah, I mean his kit is pretty cool. It's obviously very speed and very movement oriented, which is a good change for games like this, right? Because
you want to talk about like his whole kit, like what he does?
Yeah. So his kind of first ability, his main ability is the stim pack from Titanfall, though I believe it costs health, right?
Yes, it costs
so
health.
instead of, I know in Titanfall,
can't kill you.
Yeah, can't kill you. I know in Titanfall it heals you a little bit when you use it, and you go super fast. This one damages you when you go super fast. His passive, I believe he regenerates health out of combat. Is that it?
I don't know, actually. I think that's the one aspect of his kit I don't know.
Oh, jeez, I better look this up.
I don't want to do that, but we can talk about his ult.
Yeah, his ulti is the jump pad, right?
The
trampoline, yeah.
So what you want to do, kind of like pop your stim, jump into the air after you run onto your trampoline that you can place. You can choose where it goes, and go into the air and kind of surprise your enemies. Maybe you jump over a whole house. Maybe you jump over like a cliff. Well, I mean, you can't go like too high, but you can go decently high and like gain the advantage over your opponents, right?
Yeah. So yeah, I checked his passive is he regenerates 1 health every 2 seconds when he's not fighting, when he's not
Oh
taking
wow,
when he's
one
not taking
health every
damage.
2 seconds.
Yeah,
That's
1 health
insane.
every 2 seconds. Which isn't. I mean, the numbers are fair, right? Like it's
I
probably.
mean, it could be a little bit better. Every two
Yeah,
seconds,
it could be.
one health.
I think it could be better. Yeah, because like you think of Lifeline, who her thing is pretty quick in terms of how it heals you for health. So I don't know. Maybe he could do like every 2 health every 2 seconds or 1 health every 1 second, right?
Yeah, I think
Um,
like two health every 2 seconds would be kind of okay. But
yeah.
who knows? I feel like if you're not jumping in the first half of the map, you're never gonna see anybody because.
Yeah, you're kind of on your own for a little while. I think he's a good inclusion. I think right because he fits a certain play style, right? Like that's kind of the hope with a lot of the characters is that they fit a certain play style, right? So Gibraltar is very good at kind of
Supposed to be stationary.
yeah,
Supposed to
stationary. Is
be
supposed to help
defense.
out your allies. You know, she got shields and stuff and everything. Pathfinder, my main guy, um, he's very kind of vertically oriented, right? So you can grapple up to get advantage points on people or zip line, from the ground to the top of the tower that you're looking at or whatever have you. So for Octane, it's obviously very high speed, very high kind of constant movement. You can,
Yeah, you're
um,
supposed to be crazy. You know what? Actually, he kind of reminded me of when I saw him. Reminded me of a borderline psycho,
yeah,
right?
yeah. No,
That's exactly the feel that
I'm
I got
pretty
from
sure that
him.
was intentional. Yeah,
So you're just supposed to be this crazy guy. You're supposed to be just
yeah.
making disruption in the back
hmm
line. Um, the more aggressive you are, I imagine, you know, the more rewards you'll have.
Yeah, well, you can afford it, right? I mean,
Hmm.
you can sacrifice that health to run all the way around to the backside of the squad that you're fighting, kill them, and then heal up real quick. Well, not real quick, but heal up with your passive, right? So, I think he fits fairly well.
I
I'm
think he creates like his own, his own character. Like
yeah,
he fills a void.
yeah,
No
yeah,
one's as aggressive as he will be.
yeah. I mean, he's probably the best part of this release of the or season 1 release with the battle pass. The battle pass itself, though, getting back to
Yeah,
that, not super great. There was a lot of complaints and a lot of discussion on how the rewards were kind of lackluster.
the
Uh,
rewards were kind of lame. I
the
was like,
numbers of getting the rewards were kind of lackluster. A lot of stuff, right? Um, I mean, the thing with a lot of these games is that getting players is probably a lot easier than holding on to players, right? Especially for a game like Apex that just came out. You really want to be able to, or at least the ideal would be that you hold on to your core fan base, and then you keep adding new stuff in to make sure they stay, while hopefully also bringing in more people. Um, I think they did a good enough job to start off with. I know again there have been a lot of kind of complaints and everything, but they can at least learn from these mistakes and learn from take the feedback and go from there. And
I mean, do you think that they were prepared for all the hype that they got from the game, right? Maybe once they realized, oh shit, we actually have something here. Maybe that's when they had to kind of slap together um, what they were going to do for the future, right?
yeah,
Season one.
I don't know. I mean, I feel like I'm not sure if they. It's hard to say if they really expected it to be as big as it was, right? Because it was big, right? For at least 2 weeks when it came out, it was the thing, right? Um, I'm sure they knew it was going to get a fair amount of people playing it. I don't know if it was the exact numbers that they thought. Maybe what ended up happening was above and beyond their expectations. So I wouldn't be surprised if what you said was true, where they kind of just scrambled to put this thing together. But it's kind of like I said, for the next one they can make sure that they do it in a better way, right?
I
So
mean, at the very least, when it comes to battle passes, I guess I can't really knock them because it's a free-to-play game. It just crossed my mind that League actually has battle passes.
oh, do they?
They do.
I didn't know
It's
that.
in the form of like whenever an event happens, you can pay to receive more quests,
Oh, I see.
right?
Yeah.
So and what you get with quests, right? When there's an event, you get more coins, right? And with
Mhm.
more
Mhm.
coins, you can buy that special skin, that special ward, right? Uh, that little thing that goes on your skin when you're loading up, right?
Yeah.
And it makes you feel like you're special and
Yeah.
unique
Yeah.
and great. And I'm just like, why? If I just play the game, why can't I just keep on getting these things? But I guess you can't knock it because it's free and
Yeah. It's
they
it's
just want
uh
money, and it's okay.
it's interesting. I'm sure there's an argument or a kind of a consideration that could be had with regards to comparing these types of practices to what's employed with mobile games and gacha games, right? I've still been playing Dragalia Lost since we spoke about it. I think it was 2 or 3 weeks ago now. I've still been playing it. Um, and so the main things that have kind of been happening since I got it is they had an event that happened kind of when I got it, the raid event. It was a few days after I got it, and then right after that, and that was limited time, of course, keep that in mind. And then they had another one that came out. That one was, it wasn't a raid or anything, it was just kind of this other thing that you could do. It was called the Accursed Archive. So the Accursed Archives was limited, and a lot of the rewards weren't limited. But there was still an emphasis on you playing it so you could get certain things, right? Right now, there's no explicit event going on. It's just an addition to an already existing kind of quest line or event that you can do in the game. But going off that, I'm not playing it as much right now because there's no big event going on, so I have no reason to make sure I'm grinding out for these things. I still do play it from when I have the time, but again, I'm sure there's like an argument to be made about the comparison between these things, right? Because the Battle Pass encourages you to play and to get all these rewards, right? So it's almost like it pulls you back in, right? It's like I have to play, I have to get these things, right? So I don't know. I'm sure there could be work done in that case. That would be very interesting, I think. I don't know.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say, you ever bought a battle pass? You ever really done that?
I have not. No.
I don't know. I just not a fan whatsoever. I just never liked battle passes. But I guess it makes sense, right? They want you to feel like you made an investment. You got to come back to it.
Yeah,
right?
it's like I said, they pull you in.
I wasn't very shocked, or I wasn't very excited. Like back to Battle Rights Battle Pass, I kind of wanted it because it had some cool mounts in there. It had pets, which are never been in Battle Right before. Right? There's new things in there that I can get with only the Battle Pass, which is kind of scummy, but it eludes you to like wanting to buy it, right? But with this Battle Pass, I was just like, it's just nothing. None of the outfits really like wowed me. I didn't really see any legendary outfit. It kind of seemed like a recolor. All of the gun skins, right there was nothing there. There was nothing to the next level, I feel.
Yeah, I agree. Again, I guess we'll see if they can learn from this one and do better next time. Hopefully that's the case. We mentioned before, none of these companies deserve to fail, especially Respawn, who's kind of put themselves out there with this new thing that they've tried. So I hope they do better. Maybe I don't know if I'm gonna go back to playing Apex as much as I did when it came out, but at least
maybe a game here and there.
Yeah, if they keep improving, maybe we can kind of take a look at it in the future and see where they've kind of come, where they started and where they've kind of gone since then, right? It could be an interesting little experiment, if you will, right?
Mm-hmm.
Any other final thoughts on the matter?
No, I think I'm pretty good.
All right, fantastic. We're not super out of time here, but we'll sign off anyway. So, we got YouTube, obviously. Twitter, of course. So give us a like, comment, subscribe, whatever have you. As always, thank you so much for watching. We definitely appreciate it.
And have a good day, I
Yeah,
guess.
see you next week.